Almost.
Yes.
Andy, this is awesome. I have no idea what they're in for. No idea.
This is wicked.
I can see the whole arena bouncing.
It is a rocker.
What a way to start an interview. Holy
For real.
crap, ladies and gentlemen. Talk about Niagara College graduates, man. I told everybody, man, you're gonna need a parachute and a pair of depends for this one, man. This is crazy. So joining us today, Andy Colonico, obviously, like the head of Revive the Rose band. Guy's just awesome, drummer, singer. Man, it's just unbelievable. But head of Snareguy Records, and
Yes.
Andy is a Niagara College graduate. Whoop, 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 whoop. And you and I work together. Man, Andy, when were we in class together? Like,
You know, it's funny. I was talking to my my pal today. It's been 5 years since I graduated already.
holy man! And I remember the day you walked into class, and but here you are. You're kind of returning, and so we're back. I'm back. Principles of Marketing, Niagara College 1301. It's a different world, Andy. We're remote. It's kind of the world that we live in right now. And but you know what? The asynchronous class, the 1 hours, I'm bringing in marketing people, past graduates. I just want them to tell their story. I wanted to tell you how you apply marketing, of course, but also a little bit about your advice for students. So like that's an entrance, kind of cool. But Andy, like tell us about you. Like tell us about your story, the day you walked into class, like what you were thinking. You probably thought I was some kind of a freak, but the day you walked into class, you went through college. You did awesome, by the way. And then your career is just like, man, don't forget us little people. Andy, tell us your story, man. Tell us your story.
Well, first of all, thank you for the awesome intro. It means the absolute world coming from you, especially. This is probably the coolest full circle moment for me, honestly, because this particular class, and I want your whole class to know, this is the class that changed my life forever. Like I'm really thankful, and yeah, this is so cool. So I'm just really stoked. But yeah, essentially, I remember coming into Niagara College specifically, and honestly, I remember I came to business school at first because I was so fascinated by structure of like how things work. Like, so I was working in restaurants a lot, like just, doing jobs after high school and whatnot. I did music school for 1 year prior to my business entry, mind you, but I realized that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do with music. So instead of, I just decided to pull out after the first year and really take a year off to think about it, what I wanted to do. And
Yeah.
I worked in tourism, I worked in a bunch of restaurants, and I realized I don't know, I just liked the whole social part of it. And I loved seeing how it all operated and stuff. I'm like, this is cool. And like, I just realized too, like I was just really like networking. I love people. So
Yeah.
I think one of my parents suggested, oh, why don't you try business school out? I'm like, that's not a bad idea. So
Yeah.
that's what brought me into the college was after doing some part-time jobs, I realized what I kind of liked about them. And then, I was doing a bunch of courses, obviously, before I got to your course, and I thought it was very cool and all, but I was just like, man, I don't know exactly what it is though. I'm trying to implement here, and it wasn't until I got to your class where you kind of opened my eyes about just kind of embracing what you've got already with yourself and your inner freak.
Yeah.
And and it just opened my eyes to really think about how I could put all the pieces together of what I'm about with what I'm trying to do. And I at the end of the day, it just came down to I want to play music, and I just want to be involved in music, my own structure, like my own path of doing it. Like I want to create community, and that's that. And I guess I was okay at doing that naturally. So I just implemented, and you taught me a lot about putting a structure behind it and stuff. So
Yeah.
that's changed my life.
Yeah, you were pretty shy. We were trying to find a way to get you out of your shell. As soon as you walked in the room, you just knew, like, you just had a real presence about you. And then you started Revive the Rose, right? Like this is if you don't know, this is from Welland, Ontario, and like you guys have had huge accolades. But walk us through the evolution of the band and kind of where you are now.
Yeah, so actually when I got to your class was the first time I was trying to do I was trying to figure out our brand as a band. Like that's like we've been a band, I think it was 3 years before I got to your class, but it was just kind of like, dudes jamming and playing whatever we can and whatnot, right? Like we weren't really like we didn't know what kind of beast we had in us yet. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But when I got to your class though, that's when I really started to focus on like the image of the band, which was I was overthinking that for so long. But then when I met you, you helped me put those puzzles together.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of people tell me what the band should be and what the band shouldn't be and all that, and Revive the Rose is honestly just a good vibe party band. We're very honest, and our main goal is just to have a good time and put out honest music and simple music. So, and that's all we are as bandmates. We're just simple people just trying to have a great time and all the time. And we love doing we love just hanging out together and stuff. So, and I just realized too, like we're all good at making friends whenever we show up to parties together, and like we're all, we're just a good unit as friends. And I'm like, and when you told me like how good I was with like my people skills and whatnot, I really thought about it. I'm like, why don't I just brand our friendship? So that's all I did. And that's what,
Wow.
ever since then. And then I remember in your class too is when I first started implementing like game plans for marketing,
Yeah.
like structuring a thorough goal set, and I at that point I was trying to book a tour with some Trailer Park Boys actors. I remember that was my first stab at event planning. And yeah, essentially that's where I was when I first came into your class with the band. That's when it was kind of like the seed was planted, and I was exposed to trying new things and realizing my own talents I had in me to grow as a. Starting a band's a hard thing. You're literally convincing people to like music that you're putting out, and like,
Yeah.
but at the same time you're trying to make music that you like to put out too. You know what I mean? So it's like it's like a really hard
Well, it's the
startup business.
typical, in business, it's, do you want it to be a hobby or a business? And they're two different things. A lot of people, and they're great musicians, they're out there. It's a hobby, right? And then life kind of takes over. You decided that, no, I want to make this a business. And then you guys started doing competitions, and like that video that you open up Niagara Ice Dog games, like that's crazy. And then you just, you never stopped. You just kept networking and meeting. And next thing you know, I see you guys, like you're doing videos, and you got music videos, and I'm just like, hey, you're winning contests, and like now you're like hanging out with these cool bands. I feel like I got a celebrity. Well, I do. I have a celebrity on here, man. Just, that's pretty cool. So where's the band today? And what's with the Snareguy Records? Like, so you're making this real, right?
Yeah. So what happened was, like, ever since I graduated, I just found that I was, when I was finally putting the pieces together for the band, I realized like I was getting told a lot of no's all the time in the industry with a lot of things, but like my band was still finding ways around things. And that was just simply because I was taking all these no's and turning them into way more yeses, because
Yeah.
I just kept thinking, how can I convert these? And like, what, how can I do things differently that people aren't doing already? And like, how do I stand out? And that's where the hockey one really came into play. When we did the hockey song, man, that honestly, I think that separated us from being another local band to like
Yeah.
Revive the Rose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that really opened my eyes too, like the way it all rolled out. And like um there's just so many avenues you can look into for getting heard and seen. Like, and I just started thinking more that way. Like, I'm like, I want to do like everything. Like, I like how Snoop Dogg, for instance, like that guy, like people forget that he's even a rapper sometimes. At this point, he's just Snoop Dogg, and you just love Snoop Dogg because he's so
He's a
awesome. But
marketer. He's a
yes,
marketer.
and I'm all about that, like why not? So um what happened was is like I just realized with the kind of the attitude I had towards the industry, and my, and just my passion and hard work that I was putting into it, I was breaking a lot of barriers. Like, even when shortly after I graduated too, I convinced 97.7 Hits FM to add us on the radio, and they started playing us,
Yeah. I
which
remember.
was insane.
Yeah.
Because I remember I went there. I think it was like 3 times it took me to get them to play our song finally, and that opened up a whole audience. So what I wanted to do essentially, because like I didn't really have many people to kind of guide me besides yourself, obviously, but like when it comes to like the music realm of it,
Yeah.
I kind of just figured it out on my own. And I remember I always like was fascinated by independent record labels and event promoters. I loved how like the community was formed around it and stuff
Right.
like that. And I loved the whole like creating like a little family and how it just grows and grows, and like just from like a simple mission almost. And I'm like, well, if my band's able to do this kind of, without so much help, like I want to help out bands I love, like, you know what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
and I want to do shows. I want to throw my own shows, like the way I want to throw my own shows, So
And you
that's where
did,
Snare Guy Records came from.
yeah, and you've made mistakes. Like, the thing is, we all make mistakes in our journey, but you decided to not let those mistakes define you, right?
No,
And you use them as, hey man, this is a learning opportunity. I'm going to keep stepping up. So like today, congratulations, man. It's so much deserved success. Andy, like why would you say marketing is important for you now? So marketing in two senses, not only marketing a business, but really the way we coach the students too is marketing themselves. So what's the
Yes.
importance of that to you?
Well, first of all, it's funny you say it's funny to market yourselves because it is super important. I've been recently learning that just for my own entity, like for marketing, but I've been so focused on just like marketing the band for so long. But like lately, I've been realizing, like, okay, what do people love about Andy C though, too, at the same time? You know what I mean? Like, we gotta get me out there more too. Like, but marketing is so important because honestly, and like you said, I never stop, and that's on purpose because honestly, to get where you got to get, like the person that cares the most at the beginning of it all is yourself. Like you got to, push and push. Why should people be buying your product? Why should people be listening? Why should people anything? You know what I mean?
I'm right.
And and social media these days, it's like literally bigger than even when I met you like 5 years ago. Like now it's at its like insanely high peak, and I think it's just important because everyone's just on their phone all the time, and like everyone's driving all the time, you see billboards all the time, you're scrolling
Yeah.
all the time,
Yeah.
and you just really gotta be there all the time, and you have to be authentic, and I think you have to just be, you know, um, just very engaging. People like when you engage as well. So I just think marketing is so important in so many ways. Like,
Yeah.
I know with my band, people love when I comment back on just the comments, like even simple things like that. The people love a personality behind it.
We want a
They're not
connection.
being sold something. Like
Yeah.
there's like authenticity behind it, and it gets people stoked. So
Yeah.
I hope that answers the question. I'm just
Well,
marketing is so
it's
huge.
funny because as you're talking, I'm like taking some notes. And I tell the students, like, because you remember when I brought in guest speakers to your class, I would always say, like, hey, you might want to take a few notes of these speakers. It might show up in an exam somewhere. And so as you're talking, brand yourself. Why should people buy you? They're you got to be there all the time. Like you have to be. I said it today to a client. You're on stage everywhere you are. You're on stage. Authentic, engaging, connections versus selling. This is pure gold, right? So if you look at what you're doing now, Andy, what are some strategies? What are some thoughts you have around marketing and growing your brand, the band's brand, your brand? What are some tactics and strategies that you apply?
Well, if I'm getting right down to the root of it, honestly, one thing I've learned a lot. I've first of all, I've been super lucky. My band has been like essentially just a giant crash test dummy. I've been throwing myself at the industry and hoping I don't get like shut down fully. But we've been very lucky. But there's one thing I could say because I could have avoided a lot of things. Like you said, we all make mistakes, right? But we learn from them. I think the number one thing is one that you're marketing something that you really are very passionate about, and you research and know everything about that thing, and you're as prepared as possible before you even send out that first email, because if there's one thing that Neil Thornton taught me was first impression is
Yeah,
freaking everything.
everything. How you walk into a room, your eyes, the body language, your language. And remember, sales is the transference of confidence. Right. It's one of the first things we ever said to each other is this class is going to work on you being able to transfer that confidence. And you go back and well, why? Like why? And there's people going to watch this besides the students in a college, is they're going to graduate and they're going to be competing with tens of thousands of other people, graduates, compete, and not just graduates, but professionals competing for the same role. And when the interviews are over in less than 30 seconds, it's those few moments, how you walk into a room, that start to program people's impressions of you.
Exactly, you're absolutely right. And actually, there's one moment I've been meaning to tell you too. I've actually for an example of this very statement here. I remember I had I was email. This was 5 years ago, Mike. Shortly after I graduated, I set up a show in Toronto, and I wanted to get a booking agent. And I really, this guy that I wanted, he's the main booker for Nickelback, Billy Talent, like you name it, like really big rock bands.
Yeah.
And we were just on the radio, so I was like, okay, there's a nice little asset I can do to leverage myself. So, and I just hit him up, and I kept calling, and I was just super honest and genuine about it. And I was just like, I'm like, there's no point of like, overdoing it, but I was saying the facts. And I was saying you should probably come check out my band. And I thought I maybe said the bare minimum, but then I found out because he also books for the Trues, actually, which is now a band I'm like best friends with.
Yeah.
Um, but it was the Thorold venue, Moose and Goose. They were booking the Trues through this very same man. And I remember the venue had talked to this guy about me, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm actually gonna go check out that Revive the Rose band in Toronto because that Andy guy was just so nice to me." And I was like, really? I'm like, I was so nervous, and I thought like I had just said the bare minimum, but I just said what I had to say with full confidence. And I just said, I think you'll really like what you hear and see. I was very confident in the band's product. And sure enough, the guy came. He just showed up. And apparently that was very hard to do. Apparently he wouldn't come out a lot. So
Did you know he was there when you took the stage?
yeah, right before I went on, I seen him come in. I was like, oh my God, he came. And then we played, and it was great. We made a great connection that day. It was amazing.
Congrats. Isn't it amazing? It's just these little moments, but like everything adds up. It's all karma, right? It's all these little touches. And it's just so important, right? Now, if
It is.
how Andy, how do you measure, like, the question is, how do you measure marketing, which could be so many things, but how do you measure your influence? How do you measure you're on the right track? How do you measure the ROI, return on investment, of all the work that you've done? And it's obviously paying off in spades, but you didn't know that at the time. You probably went through a series of benchmark of successes and failures, but like, how did you know you were on track?
Yeah, you know what? I knew when I was so confident in how the band was sounding, and the way that we were just so naturally stoked at what we were doing. We were showing up to shows and just like owning it. And we were getting these opportunities to open for bigger bands. Now we were capitalizing on their fan base, and now we're starting to fill rooms out of town, like on our own, like 100 to 200 cap rooms even. Honestly, I just think the way I measure success for myself personally is I'm growing a fan base that loves what we're doing, and and the fact that we write music and that relates to their life personally, and they can attach that to their life. I can't unsee that. I can't even play cover gigs anymore because like, just playing to like audiences that are so big, and you're playing your own music and
Wow.
people are wanting to hear that. I'm like, man, these songs mean too much to people for me to like quit what I'm doing. And
Hmm.
I'm growing the merchandise store like ever so slowly. And just like little, I keep the goals like very genuine and slow and steady, but like it's been I don't know. I guess I measure success. I'm happy. My fans are happy, and we're getting more opportunity and invited by bigger bands. To me, and now I'm booking my own events. To me, the fact that I'm doing what I'm doing
Yeah.
and I'm seeing success come from it, that's how I've been measuring it. But I would say, if for someone to measure success, I think doing what you love and killing it at the end of the day, to me, that's measuring
I'm
success,
believing it. That's
honestly.
awesome. So, my good buddy Alex DeGenis, he always said, I love how he says this, because he goes, "That's great, you guys. You got Raul in his college dorm, surrounded by pizza boxes, and he doesn't know what he wants to do. He doesn't even know what he wants for dinner, right? Like, how does what we talk today relate to like Raul or Sally, who's kind of in her parents' basement, kind of working through college? What's your advice? Like, what's your advice for just not just students, but anybody with goals and dreams?
Well, my advice, honestly, is to write down your goals and dreams.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest one at the end of the day. And I think um, the way I view life, and I think everyone should view life this way, is that you only have one life to live. And I think you should just honestly follow your heart and gut, no matter what it is, because no matter what, at the end of the day, as long as you tried to do it, you can say you tried, and you can learn from any mistake, or you can grow from it. Like,
Yeah.
my advice is that you write down your goals and you just give them a go, honestly, because you just never know what door is going to open. And that's my biggest advice at the end of the day. I've just never given up, and I'm going to keep going. That's my advice.
Remember the Michelangelo quote: the greatest danger is not that we set our goals too high and fail to achieve them. It's that we set them too low and we do.
That's exactly it. That's an amazing quote.
Yeah.
Even to complement that, even like you said with our song "Bar Down," we intentionally only made this to be the OHL 2018 season theme song. We like that was its only goal. It was super genuine, and like the locals will love it. But then when we got all this attention, the Toronto Maple Leafs picked it up, and then they started playing at their games. And then I didn't overachieve with that goal, but then that got me thinking, well, okay, let's take this the next step up. Like, what can we do now? So I clickbait EA Sports into a video saying, tag EA Sports so we get put in the NHL video game.
That's it.
And we did. We got our fans to do that. And sure enough, the producer DM'd me and he's like, song sounds cool. Here's my email. And then I sent it to him. And then when the Toronto Maple Leafs, eventually, they just not only made it, they weren't only playing the song, but they made it an official Toronto Maple Leafs warm-up song for the 2019 to 2020 season. So then I got the newspaper to write an article on it to make it official.
See, yeah.
And then I went back to EA Sports and I said, look, this is what's happening. And then they put it in the video game because we're like, we need to do accurate things with our video game. So,
oh my God. So you do realize this weekend's the Super Bowl. Maybe you might and revive the Rose. Right?
I wish.
As we're all rooting for the Bengals or the Rams. I haven't made up my mind yet who I want to root for because our Buffalo Bills are gone. So that's crazy. Oh my God. So Andy, naturally, my goal is a lot of people see this, and I'm going to drop this out on LinkedIn. I'm going to share it to the students. How do they follow you? And we got to hook up some merch. So how do they follow you? Where do they follow you? How could they connect and introduce themselves to you? Where do we find you?
Yeah, and I would love to connect, by the way, with anybody. So you can reach out to me in multiple avenues. You can reach out to me on my personal, accounts, which is just at Andy Colonico, or I could shoot you over my email, Neil, if you want, which is a.colonico@live.com. Or you can reach out to me through Snareguy Records if you want to talk to me about events and how I manage artists and whatnot, which is just at Snareguy Right? Or Snareguy Records at
Your
Gmail.
name's on the screen. Your name's it's on the screen, like LinkedIn. Right?
And Revive the Rose. You can look up my band. Everything will lead to one thing. It's one giant nucleus. Or if you're in the area, go to Niagara Falls Taps Brewhouse and try our beer, Bar Down Lager, which is our newest venture.
That's so cool, man. I'm totally going to do that. So, obviously, Andy, like, I get all emotional here. So I'm just so proud of, I remember the day you walked into class, you and I think we hugged each other or something. It was just stupid. It was just like,
totally. Yeah.
It's people, but you know what? That was a great experience. Right. And if someone ever said to me, why do I teach? It's because of you. It's because watching the journeys. And I had Michelle Kahn now on like last week. You got to see, like, she's with Foreman Effect. You got to see what she's doing. Right. And I got Matt Roth coming on in a couple of weeks. And I got Ben Fillmore coming on. He runs 2 men in a truck. So there's success coming out of Niagara College. And I'm very proud to say this. So I want to kind of thank you.
I want to thank you, man. I'll never forget the day when I stepped foot in your class. I was like, damn, this guy just owns the room, man. Like, and it was just so cool. And even the people you brought in, all rock stars, man. And they killed it, and they're very inspiring. Yeah. My favorite part was just talking to them after too, like just picking their brain. And I loved it. And You just did it differently, you know, than the I guess what would be considered the template, and it was very inspiring, and really inspired me to like just think outside the box, and
Wow.
just, you know, it gave me a lot of confidence, just like, you know, embrace what you got and just attack the world, man. Get
Wow.
out there and kill it, you
There
know.
you go. Well, Andy, I'm going to release this bad boy to the world. So be prepared. I'm just gonna hang on just hang on while I start to convert